In the quiet village of Willowbrook, where a sparkling river once brought life to the fields, disaster strikes. The river turns dark and lifeless, threatening to destroy everything the villagers hold dear. Whispers of an ancient curse spread fear, but when no one dares to act, a shy young girl named Lila steps forward. Armed with nothing but her courage, a loyal owl companion, and a heart full of kindness, Lila ventures into a mysterious forest to uncover the truth. But the path ahead is treacherous, filled with riddles, trials, and shadowy creatures that test her strength and resolve. Can Lila, a girl who doubts her own abilities, find the courage to save her village and restore the river's magic? Or will the darkness consume everything she loves? This is a story of bravery, friendship, and the power of believing in yourself, even when the odds seem impossible. In the heart of a valley surrounded by rolling hills and golden meadows, there was a small village called Willowbrook. The village was known for its sparkling river that flowed through its center, bringing life to the fields and joy to the people. Among the villagers was a young girl named Lila. Lila had bright, curious eyes the color of honey and long, wavy black hair that she often tied with a simple blue ribbon. She was kind-hearted and loved helping others, but she was also shy and unsure of her own abilities. One day, as Lila sat by the riverbank, she noticed something strange. The river, which was usually clear and lively, had turned murky and slow. The villagers whispered about a curse, saying the river spirit was angry. Without the river, the crops would fail, and the village would suffer. Lila's heart ached for her home, but she didn't know what to do. That evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, a mysterious stranger arrived in Willowbrook. He was an old man with a long silver beard and a cloak that shimmered like the night sky. He carried a staff carved with intricate patterns of stars and moons. The villagers gathered around him, curious and cautious. "I am Eldrin," the man said in a deep, kind voice. "I have come to help you, but the task is not mine to complete. Someone brave must journey to the source of the river and uncover the truth." The villagers murmured in fear. The source of the river was deep in the enchanted forest, a place of legends and danger. Lila, standing at the edge of the crowd, felt her heart race. Could she be the one to save her village? That night, Lila couldn't sleep. Eldrin's words echoed in her mind. She thought of her family, her friends, and the village she loved. If no one else would go, she had to try. At dawn, she packed a small bag with bread, cheese, and a flask of water. She tied her blue ribbon tightly in her hair and set off toward the enchanted forest. As she reached the edge of the forest, she hesitated. The trees loomed like giants, their branches twisting like claws. But then she remembered the murky river and the worried faces of the villagers. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the shadows. As Lila ventured deeper into the forest, she heard a soft hoot. Looking up, she saw a large owl with feathers as white as snow and eyes that glowed like amber. "Who dares enter the enchanted forest?" the owl asked, its voice deep and echoing. "I am Lila," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm looking for the source of the river to save my village." The owl tilted its head. "Brave, but foolish. The path ahead is full of trials. But I will guide you, for I see kindness in your heart." The owl flew down and perched on her shoulder, its feathers soft and warm. "Follow me," it said, and together they continued into the forest. Lila and the owl, whom she named Snow, came upon a rickety wooden bridge suspended over a deep gorge. The bridge swayed in the wind, and strange whispers seemed to rise from the depths below. Lila hesitated, clutching the straps of her bag. "This is the bridge of whispers," Snow said. "It tests the courage of those who cross it. The whispers will try to scare you, but you must not listen." As Lila stepped onto the bridge, the whispers grew louder. "You're too small," they hissed. "You'll never make it. Turn back." Lila's heart pounded, but she focused on Snow's calm presence. Step by step, she crossed the bridge, ignoring the voices. When she reached the other side, the whispers faded, and she felt a surge of pride. On the other side of the bridge, Lila entered a clearing filled with tiny, glowing creatures darting through the air. They were sprites, with wings like dragonflies and mischievous grins. "Who dares enter our forest?" one of them squeaked. "I'm Lila, and I'm trying to save my village," she said. The sprites giggled and swirled around her. "We'll let you pass, but only if you solve our riddle," they chimed. The riddle was tricky, but Lila thought carefully and answered correctly. The sprites cheered and cleared the path, their laughter echoing as they disappeared into the trees. As Lila and Snow continued, they came upon a small stream that branched off from the main river. The water shimmered strangely, and when Lila knelt to touch it, a voice echoed from the stream. "Turn back, child," the voice warned. "The source of the river is guarded by a great danger. You are not strong enough to face it." Lila's hands trembled, but she stood tall. "I may not be strong, but I have courage and kindness. I will not turn back." The stream fell silent, and the water began to flow more clearly, as if acknowledging her resolve. Deeper into the forest, Lila and Snow encountered a massive stag with antlers that glowed like silver branches. The stag's eyes were deep and wise, and it spoke in a voice that rumbled like thunder. "Why do you seek the source of the river?" Lila explained her mission, her voice steady despite the stag's imposing presence. The stag studied her for a moment, then said, "Your heart is pure, but the path ahead is dangerous. I will grant you my blessing, but you must prove your courage once more." The stag lowered its head, and Lila placed her hand on its glowing antlers. A warm light surrounded her, filling her with strength and hope. As night fell, the forest grew darker and colder. Lila and Snow heard rustling in the bushes, and a shadowy figure emerged. It was a creature made of darkness, with glowing red eyes and sharp claws. "You should not be here," the creature growled. "Turn back, or face the consequences." Lila's heart raced, but she stood her ground. "I will not turn back. My village needs me." The creature lunged, but Snow flew in front of Lila, glowing brightly. The light from Snow's feathers drove the shadow back, and it disappeared into the trees. Lila and Snow ventured deeper into the forest, where the trees grew so close together that only slivers of moonlight pierced through. As they walked, Lila began to hear faint voices calling her name. "Lila! Lila," they whispered, soft and haunting. "This is the forest of echoes," Snow said. "It reflects your fears and doubts. You must not let the voices distract you." But the whispers grew louder, turning into cries of doubt. "You're too weak. You'll fail." Lila stopped, clutching her chest as tears welled in her eyes. Snow nuzzled her cheek gently. "Remember why you're here, Lila. You are stronger than your fears." Taking a deep breath, Lila closed her eyes and focused on the faces of her family and friends in the village. The voices faded, and the forest grew quiet once more. After leaving the forest of echoes, Lila and Snow came upon a large, moss-covered boulder. Snow flew around it, inspecting it closely. "There's something strange about this rock," Snow said. Lila ran her fingers over the boulder and felt a faint carving beneath the moss. She brushed it away to reveal a symbol of a river flowing into the sun. As she pressed the symbol, the boulder rumbled and slowly rolled aside, revealing a hidden door carved into the earth. "This must lead to the source of the river," Lila whispered. She hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open. A staircase spiraled downward into the darkness, and she took her first step into the unknown. The staircase led Lila to an underground cavern where the river flowed in shimmering, silver streams. The air was cool and damp, and the sound of rushing water echoed through the cavern. As Lila walked along the riverbank, she noticed strange, glowing fish swimming in the water. Snow flew close to the surface, watching them curiously. "This is no ordinary river," Snow said. "Its magic is strong here." Suddenly, the water began to ripple, and a figure emerged, a woman with flowing hair that shimmered like the river itself. Her eyes were deep and sorrowful. "Why have you come here, child?" she asked, her voice like the sound of rushing water. The woman introduced herself as the river spirit, the guardian of the Enchanted River. "The river has grown sick because of the greed and carelessness of those who live beyond the forest," she said. "They take from the river without giving back, and its magic is fading." Lila's heart ached. "What can I do to help?" she asked. The river spirit smiled faintly. "You have a kind heart, child. To restore the river, you must find the crystal of balance, hidden deep within the cavern of trials. But beware, the trials will test your courage, wisdom, and kindness." Lila nodded, determination shining in her honey-colored eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes to save my village and the river." Lila entered the cavern of trials, where the first challenge awaited her. In the center of the chamber stood a tall, ornate mirror framed with silver vines. As Lila approached, her reflection shimmered and changed. The mirror showed her deepest fears, failing her village, losing her family, and being too small to make a difference. Lila's knees trembled, but Snow whispered, "Face your fears, Lila. They are only shadows." Lila took a deep breath and stepped closer to the mirror. "I may be afraid, but I won't let my fears stop me," she said firmly. The mirror glowed brightly, and the reflection returned to normal. A hidden door opened, leading to the next trial. The next chamber opened into a breathtaking garden filled with vibrant, glowing flowers and trees heavy with golden fruit. The air was sweet with the scent of blossoms, and a soft melody seemed to drift through the air. Lila's eyes widened in wonder. She hadn't eaten since she left the village, and the golden fruit looked so tempting. Snow fluttered nervously on her shoulder. "Be careful, Lila. This place is not what it seems." As Lila reached for a fruit, a voice whispered, "Stay here, child. Forget your troubles. You'll be safe and happy forever." Lila froze, realizing the voice was coming from the garden itself. She clenched her fists and stepped back. "I can't stay. My village needs me." The garden began to wither, the flowers fading to gray. A path appeared through the trees, leading to the next trial. Lila smiled at Snow. "Let's keep going." The path led Lila to a narrow stone bridge suspended over a dark, swirling abyss. The air was cold, and shadows seemed to rise from the depths, whispering and reaching for her. "This is the Bridge of Shadows," Snow said. "It will test your courage. You must not let the shadows touch you, or you'll be lost." Lila took a deep breath and stepped onto the bridge. The shadows swirled around her, whispering her worst fears. "You'll fail. You're not strong enough." Lila's heart pounded, but she focused on the light ahead. Step by step, she crossed the bridge, the shadows retreating as she moved forward. When she reached the other side, the shadows vanished, and the air grew warm again. Lila smiled, her confidence growing. At last, Lila entered a grand chamber filled with shimmering light. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it rested the crystal of balance. The crystal glowed with a soft, golden light, and its surface seemed to ripple like water. Lila approached the pedestal, her heart pounding. As she reached for the crystal, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Only one with a pure heart may take the crystal of balance. Are you worthy?" Lila placed her hand on the crystal and said, "I don't know if I'm worthy, but I'll do everything I can to save my village and the river." The crystal glowed brighter, and the voice said, "Your courage and kindness have proven your worth." The crystal lifted into the air, and its light filled the chamber. As Lila held the crystal of balance, the chamber began to tremble. A beam of golden light shot from the crystal, traveling through the cavern and into the underground river. The water shimmered and began to flow more strongly, its silver glow returning. Snow chirped happily. "You've done it, Lila. The river's magic is returning. Lila smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. Let's take the crystal back to the river spirit. Together, they followed the glowing river back to the surface, where the forest seemed brighter and more alive than before. When Lila returned to the river spirit, the guardian's sorrowful expression had been replaced with a radiant smile. You have restored the balance, child. The river's magic will flow once more, and your village will thrive. The river spirit took the crystal and placed it in the heart of the river, where it glowed softly. You have shown great courage, wisdom, and kindness. The forest and the river will always remember you. Lila bowed her head. Thank you for trusting me. I couldn't have done it without Snow. The river spirit smiled at the little owl. You have both done well. With the river restored and the crystal of balance safely in place, Lila and Snow began their journey back to Willowbrook. The forest, once dark and foreboding, now seemed alive with light and color. Birds sang in the trees, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers. As they walked, Lila felt a deep sense of peace. She had faced her fears, solved the trials, and saved the river. But she also felt a twinge of sadness. I'll miss this place, she said softly. Snow nuzzled her cheek. The forest will always remember you, Lila. And so will I. When they reached the edge of the forest, Lila turned back for one last look. The trees seemed to wave goodbye, their leaves shimmering in the sunlight. When Lila returned to Willowbrook, the villagers were gathered by the riverbank. To their amazement, the river was clear and sparkling once more, its water flowing strongly through the fields. Lila, her mother cried, running to embrace her. You did it. The villagers cheered, lifting Lila onto their shoulders. You saved us, they shouted. Lila blushed, and used to so much attention. I didn't do it alone, she said, glancing at Snow. The forest and the river spirit helped me. That night, the village celebrated with music, dancing, and a feast by the river. Lila sat with her family, feeling a warmth in her heart she had never known before. The morning after the celebration, Lila woke to find a small, glowing flower on her windowsill. Its petals shimmered with the colors of the rainbow, and it gave off a soft, magical light. Snow perched on the windowsill, tilting his head. It's a gift from the forest, he said. A token of gratitude for what you've done. Lila carefully picked up the flower, feeling its warmth in her hands. She decided to plant it by the river, where it could grow and remind the village of the magic that had saved them. As she planted the flower, it began to bloom, its light spreading across the riverbank. As the days passed, the villagers noticed how the river seemed even more vibrant than before. The crops grew faster, the fields were greener, and the air was filled with the sound of birds and laughter. Lila gathered the villagers by the river and told them about the river spirit and the trials she had faced. The river is alive, she said. We must take care of it, or its magic will fade again. The villagers nodded solemnly. They promised to treat the river with respect, planting trees along its banks and keeping its waters clean. Lila felt a deep sense of pride as she watched her village come together to protect the river. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Snow perched on Lila's shoulder and said, "It's time for me to return to the forest." Lila's heart sank. "Will I ever see you again?" she asked. Snow nuzzled her cheek. "The forest will always be with you, Lila. And so will I, whenever you need me, just look to the trees." With a final chirp, Snow spread his wings and flew toward the forest. Lila watched until he disappeared into the horizon, her heart heavy but full of gratitude for the journey they had shared. With the river restored and the village thriving, Lila found herself growing into a new role. The villagers often came to her for advice, and she became known as a wise and kind leader. One day, as she sat by the river, a group of children ran up to her. "Tell us the story of the Enchanted River," they begged. Lila smiled and began to tell them about her journey, her voice filled with warmth and wonder. As she spoke, she realized that her story wasn't just about saving the river, it was about finding her own strength and courage. And she knew that the lessons she had learned would guide her for the rest of her life. Years passed, and the village of Willowbrook flourished like never before. The river remained clear and vibrant, its magic flowing through the fields and forests. The glowing flower Lila had planted by the river grew into a magnificent tree, its branches shimmering with rainbow-colored leaves. The villagers called it the Tree of Balance, a symbol of the harmony between nature and humanity. Lila grew into a wise and compassionate leader, guiding the village with kindness and courage. She often visited the river, sitting beneath the Tree of Balance to reflect on her journey. The children of the village loved to gather around her, begging her to tell the story of the Enchanted River. Over time, Lila's story became a legend, passed down through generations. The villagers built a small shrine by the river to honor the river spirit and the trials Lila had faced. Travelers from distant lands came to Willowbrook to see the magical tree and hear the tale of the girl who saved the river. Though Lila never saw snow again, she often felt his presence in the rustling of the trees and the soft glow of the moonlight. She knew that the forest and the river would always be with her, just as she would always be with them. The legend of Lila and the Enchanted River taught the villagers, and all who heard the story, a powerful lesson, that courage, kindness, and respect for nature could overcome even the greatest challenges. The villagers of Willowbrook never forgot their promise to care for the river. They planted trees, cleaned its waters, and taught their children to honor the balance between humanity and the natural world. The river, in turn, continued to bless the village with its magic, ensuring that Willowbrook remained a place of peace and prosperity. And so, the story of Lila and the Enchanted River lived on, a timeless reminder that even the smallest person could make a difference when guided by love and determination.